Thank you, Vicky, and good morning, everyone. Uh, I'm going to give you a kind of a general overview about KTP. So I hope that by the time I'm finished speaking, you know a bit more about how the program works, and hopefully you'll have some questions that we can pick up later in the panel, and you'll start to get a feel of whether or not this is a program that could help you. My colleague Ken Frame is going to join me and speak after me. I'm going to focus, say, in general terms about the program. Ken's going to talk about a specific type of KTP that's relatively new in the history of the program, which focuses on management issues and kind of more people strategic kind of challenges in the company. Most KTPs are technically focused, and this focused on management capabilities, a relatively new thing. So I work for KTN, and KTN is an organization that connects peoples and ideas and communities to help drive innovation. And to give you an idea of what kind of things we do, we have sector experts in areas from agri-food to health, right through to really emerging kind of technical areas and business areas like quantum technology. We support Innovate UK by bringing together the companies in those sectors to help shape Innovate UK's programs and the kind of areas that they focus in to help inform that. And we help disseminate Innovate UK programs and other sort of innovation initiatives to businesses across all sectors. And a big part of what we do is about bringing people together who maybe wouldn't normally work together. So companies that are maybe working in emerging areas where they need a specific type of skill or expertise that doesn't exist within their business. So helping to match them up with other companies that can help, and also trying to connect them into academic expertise. And that's where KTP particularly fits. And my colleague, Ken Frame, Stephen and I, this is the area that we specifically work in. So KTP is another type of partnership, and it brings together a company who want to do something innovative and strategically important, but they need access to capability or knowledge that they don't have within the business. So they need access an expertise that isn't easy to access through conventional means by hiring somebody or bringing on board a consultant. And the program basically helps them to work with an academic team within a university who've got the kind of expertise that they need to access. And it supports bringing a graduate on board who would work full-time on the project for anywhere between 1 and 3 years, but typically 2 to 3 years. And they basically focus on that project in the company on delivering it with the support of the academic team. So I think a good way to think of a KTP is, it's bringing a focus to the project that you want to deliver, and it can be a new product, it can be a new process, or it can be the kind of management focused project that Ken will talk about. And it's like having that really niche, strong expertise sitting at your table and from the academic team that can help to deliver the project. Because KTP is seen as a really good opportunity for young people and graduates, you tend to attract really good talent into the program, and most of the graduates that come on board in the KTP will stay with the company afterwards. So it's another, I think, thing that makes the program attractive for companies. It's a three-way partnership. So we look for the primary benefit, obviously, is delivering that project in the company. For the academic teams, they are being pushed more and more by government to apply the knowledge and the skills and particularly the kind of knowledge they get from the research that they do into supporting innovation with businesses. So KTP facilitates that, but they'll also get really good current real examples that they can use in their teaching, which helps bring the teaching alive to the students and gives them a feel for the kind of things that they'll do in business once they graduate. It helps them generate case studies. There can be placements and things like that as well, where students will go into the company and work on master's projects and placements. Sometimes there are publications, conference outputs, but that all depends, of course, on confidentiality. And the company will obviously have a say in what would be communicated outside of the partnership. For the graduate, KTP, as I say, it's a really exciting opportunity for them because they get to work on a really interesting project with a business that's that's innovative and doing new things. They get to work with an academic team who are experts in the area that they want to work in. There's a proportion of the budget that's set aside to train and develop the graduate as well. And there's an understanding that some of the graduates' time will be spent in development type activities. So they see it, in short, as a really good career development opportunity. So you attract really good people. So primary thing is the company project, but we also look for these kind of academic benefits along the way and to develop the young person that's recruited into the project as well. So in short, KTPs it's a program that helps a company that wants to deliver an innovation-focused project over 1 to 3 years where they need access to academic knowledge and capability. As Vicky said, the program's been running now for more than 45 years. I think it's 46 years now. It used to be called the Teaching Company Scheme. It rebranded a few years back. And in the UK at the minute, and typically at any time, there are around 800, 900 projects running at any time. So there's a lot of experience in running these type of projects over the years and at any time. And as Vicky said as well, Northern Ireland is one of the UK's strongest regions, and it's been that way for quite some time. And typically we have 70, 80 projects running here in Northern Ireland with the universities, the colleges, and also organisations like CAFRE and AFBI have a current project as well. And it's completely sector agnostic, and technology agnostic, so we work across all sectors and all disciplines. So the journey from a KTP from start to finish, we as advisors, myself, Ken and Stephen, will help you in the early stages, help you get a feel for whether or not the project that you're looking at fits with the KTP model and whether it's likely to be funded if you make an application. So we all act as assessors in the programme. We obviously don't assess applications, that we help in this way in the early days, but it positions us well to know what Innovate UK want from projects and what will score well enough in the assessment process to get supported. So if we think there's the bones of a project there, if you need access to an academic team, if you haven't identified them, we can help with that. If you already know them, that's fine. But we'll help you shape and develop the project with the academic team and facilitate those discussions so that you form the project as best you can at that early stage and plan it. And we'll help you shape up the application as well to make sure that you present and articulate your project in a way that we feel it's got a good chance of being funded. And if your project's supported, the graduate's employed technically by the university. So the university handle the grant, they deal with all the claims and purchases and things. So you get to focus on your project and working with the academic team. So they take all that kind of, I suppose, burden of administration away from you, which is I think, a big plus with this program. And they employ the graduate and pay the salary and so on as well. So typically they'll invoice the company partner for their cost or contribution on a monthly or quarterly basis. But although the graduate's employed by the academic partner, they work in your company to your terms and conditions. So your working hours, your holiday arrangements and everything else. So it's a slightly unusual way to do this kind of thing, but it's the way all of the projects have run. As I say, there's a long history and many projects have run really well this way, and it's evolved this way over the years to be, we think, the best model. So you treat them like your employee essentially, and they work in your company and with you day to day. The academic team will spend typically a half a day per week on average supporting you, and we like to see as much of that being in the business as possible. So they'll come out and spend time with you. Obviously at the minute that's difficult, but in normal times they would spend time in the company with you, which is important for them, to get a feel for what you do and understand how the business works. And there's a budget in there of well, we'll come on to it a little bit later, but it's around about £2,000 a year to help support training and development of the graduate. And one of the things that we do is if the project's up and running is, we'll check in with you regularly, and we'll try to make sure that the graduates getting supported by everyone to identify the kind of training and development that you think will help to develop them to deliver a better project, but hopefully to be a more rounded, better, stronger kind of a person that you would want to employ at the end of the project. And I say typically projects are 12 to 36 months long, or they can be 12 to 36 months long, but typically they're around about 2 years, give or take, and sometimes a bit longer, up to 36 months. As to say, there's no requirement to employ the graduate at the end of the project, but obviously that's a good thing if it happens, and in more than 2/3 of cases that is what happens. So typical costs for a project, these are kind of high level because every institution you work with will have slightly different costs, every academic institution, but typically to pay a graduate £18,000 to £35,000 a year, you set the salary as a company where you feel it should be to fit with your expectations in the company, but also what you need to attract the right kind of graduate. When you add on national insurance and pension contributions, the typical cost to employ someone per year is between £25,000 and £45,000. There's around about £5,000 a year to support the graduate in that training and development, but also a little bit for consumables and for travel So maybe to allow them to go and visit, test sites, customers, go on training, go to conferences or trade events. And the consumables really is a small budget, but it's enough to buy, maybe a laptop, computer, and a few other bits and pieces to help them out with the project. The access to academic expertise typically costs, in and around £30,000 a year. That can vary. So the typical budget for a project is between £60,000 and £80,000 per year. And if you're an SME, that's supported with a grant rate of 67%. If you're a large company, or non-SME, the grant rate is 50%. So typical cost to an SME is £20,000 to £27,000 a year, and for a larger company, £30,000 to £40,000 a year, depending on the institution you work with and where you set the salary for the graduate. So KTP projects, the program is run by Innovate UK. KTN supports the delivery of that. Most of the projects are funded by Innovate UK, and in Northern Ireland, Invest NI. So as Vicky said, Invest NI are very supportive of the program, which is something we're very grateful for. So most of the projects are funded jointly between Innovate UK and Invest Northern Ireland. There are other parts of UKRI, the research councils and so on, that will sometimes fund projects as well. That just probably doesn't mean that much or isn't that important to you as a company, but for the academic team, sometimes that can be a good thing for them to access that kind of research council funding. So I suppose in summary, for a company, what you get for your money is, you get access to that dedicated employee and the graduate to come and work in the business. We talk about graduates and recent graduates, and we call them associates, but the average age of an associate or a graduate at the moment in this program is around about 27. So you will attract people who have been working for a few years and see this as a really good opportunity and want to come in and do something exciting and new and develop through KTP. So you get access to that really good person. You get to work with them for a couple of years, and potentially that's someone that you might want to employ or retain in the business at the end of the project. A key part of a KTP is about embedding new capabilities. So the academic expertise that you access shouldn't be one-off. It should be the kind of capability you want to embed in the company, so that you can keep innovating or keep working in the area that the project was in. You get access to the academic team for half a day a week. You get their support in delivering the project and developing the graduate, and hopefully there's a relationship there that will lead to a follow-on collaboration. And there's quite a lot of support from the university or college in terms of managing and delivering the project. There's lots of projects running at the moment, and we have a lot of experience, I guess, in dealing with projects as well. So there are very few issues that crop up that we don't have experience of trying to help you deal with. So it's just before I finish, KTP it's a competitive process. So when you make your application, it's scored on 4 criteria. So it's the level of financial impact that you think the project will deliver, how innovative the project is, how challenging it is. So is it something that's difficult to do, and is a KTP intervention really needed? And how well planned and how well together does the whole project fit? Is it the right team? Does it look well thought through and planned? And does it look like the company can deliver? So we score against those 4 criteria. Projects are ranked, and then the the funding's awarded from the top score downwards, and basically Innovate UK, Invest NI will fund the projects that they can fund with the funding that's available. Typical success rates 85, 90, 95%, just depending on the particular call that you apply to. There has to be a need to embed that new capability in the company, and there has to be a gap in knowledge in the company. And typically, because there's a focus on developing the graduate and embedding capability, as a rule of thumb, typically companies need to be around about 4 employees or more. There's some affordability checks that are done in the company as well, but we recognize that companies will have a challenging year over the last year. Also that we do have companies that apply that are pre-revenue, early stage. So the affordability checks it's based on us, I suppose, understanding and building a case with the assessors that there aren't any issues there. So I guess what I'm saying is if you're around about the 4 employees, or there's any issues in the company's accounts in the recent years, or you're not trading yet or not profitable, don't let that put you off. Talk to us, and we'll see if we think we can build a case that would be supported. So as I said, there's a network of advisors around the UK. Ken, Stephen and I cover Northern Ireland. First step, if you're interested in KTP after today, is probably come back to Invest NI, and I know the contact details will be shared at the end of the end of the overall webinar. Talk to us as well, help match you with the university or college, and we'll work with you to help develop a good project if we think there's one there that could be funded, and hopefully support you in developing a good application if everything looks good. My contact details are there, as are Ken's and Stephen's. Don't worry about taking them down, because I know Nicola's going to share contact details at the end of the webinar. There's the KTP website, an inquiries email, and there's our Twitter tag as well. So follow us if you want any more information just after the webinar as well. And I'll now hand you across to my colleague, Ken Frayne, to talk about the management KTPs.